Okay, so I'm wearing 3D glasses, not any style 3D glasses. Where's that? IMAX 3D glasses. Yes, so I saw Iron Man 3 in IMAX 3D. This was a great epilogue when it comes to like the Avengers. If you didn't see the Avengers, you might have an issue trying to find out why Tony has these bizarre anxiety attacks. He essentially has them because he now realizes that he lives in a universe where there are gods who wield hammers, super soldiers from World War II, ace assassins, a guy who's superpowered with gamma radiation. There are gods in a far-off land that can show up at any point in time and wreak havoc. There are alien forces that can use gateway weaponry. So there's a lot that he's trying to come to grips with. And he hasn't been sleeping. At all. He is on Mark 42 for his armor. I think in the Avengers, I think it was in like Mark 4. So he's made a lot of armor since then. So you got that storyline going on. They do a flashback where he's approached by someone to join the group AIM. He, of course, does not. AIM continues to do what ends up being kind of a regenerative matrix you can inject into somebody. Which you can probably guess might have some sort of disastrous results. You find that out in like the first 3 minutes. So the rest of the movie, you can pretty much find out the mysteries are tied back to the opening sequence. There's also the Mandarin. Mandarin played by Sir Ben Kingsley. They do him as more of kind of like a terrorist mastermind. You know, these bizarre things are happening, and then Bin Laden released, I guess you can call him kind of like Ben Laden style character. He then releases a tape, claiming responsibility for it, using some sorts of metaphors. Really unique and very interesting sort of character. This one, the movie proper doesn't have any other cameos by anybody else. So this is pretty much, it is an Iron Man movie. A lot of it deals with Tony Stark. Tony Stark makes a move to the Mandarin, more often saying, here's my address. If you want some, come get some. He decides to come get some. It pretty much destroys the entire base that Iron Man has. And then leaves him essentially in the middle of Tennessee with his armor, where he befriends a kid to help him get his armor up and running. Which eventually then leads to the battle between his two villains, their army, and his army of additional suits. If you've seen the trailers, you know he's got a bunch of different suits. While at the same time you have the Don Cheadle character now in Iron Patriot. Essentially it's War Machine that they painted. They make jokes that it is a painted version of War Machine. But it tested well in the test marketing. So it works pretty well from that standpoint. It's a nice way to kind of wrap up the Iron Man trilogy, and it's a good thing that you could probably have to be a nice, almost clean break from the Avengers Phase 1 scenario. I know they say Iron Man 3 is part of Phase 2. This to me feels like it's the cap end for Phase 1. Now I'll go on to some of the spoilers. So we'll give you some time. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And now we're on to the spoilers. There are two villains in this. There's the Mandarin, and then there's Meltdown. Meltdown is Guy Pearce? That's Guy Pearce. The character you essentially first meet, who looks kind of like Shaun White, but he's using a cane. The extremists that they're using, injecting into people, if they get too agitated or not regulated, they begin to glow. And they become self-combustible. So the bombs that are happening are actually extremist patients who are exploding. Guy Pearce's character, Killian, essentially has found a way to kind of control it better, and he actually can generate super heat in parts of his body. At one part, he actually knows how to breathe fire. So he is your primary villain. You're probably thinking, what about the Mandarin? The Mandarin is actually just an actor. So Ben Kingsley essentially is playing a kind of drugged out actor who AIM is using as their figurehead to try to help take over the world. So the Mandarin, if you thought you're going to see Tony Stark versus the guy with the 10 rings of celestial technology, that does not happen. During the ending battle, it is the Extremis army versus the Iron Man army. And he does a promo called House Party, which has all of the suits come out from underneath his compound and help him battle them. He then does Operation Clean Slate when this is done, which makes them all explode. So pretty much it makes it seem like the only suit left over is the Iron Patriot suit. Towards the end of the movie, they actually inject Gwyneth Paltrow's character with the Extremis. So it ends with Tony having figured out a way to neutralize Extremis to save her life, and then having the heart surgery that he needs to remove the piece of shrapnel from Neera's heart so he can have a regular everyday heart and not need to be Iron Man anymore. So essentially it ends with him kind of being no longer Iron Man. But he does say that he is still Iron Man. After the credits, there is a post-credit scene, and it is Tony talking with Bruce Banner, Mark Ruffalo's character, the Hulk. So the person you hear him talking to in the beginning, when he's going through his whole scenario, is the person he's talking to at the end. And Bruce Banner's character essentially is asleep. You can look and you can find this on YouTube. It's pretty easy to track down. It's been on the net since after it premiered in China. And it's a really short sequence. It's kind of funny, but it doesn't really set anything up. It's not like what you had at the end of the first one, where they discuss the Avengers Initiative, or the end of the second one, where that's where Thor's hammer came down, or the ones during the Avengers, where one showed Thanos, the other one showed eating shawarma. It's a nice little comedic piece, but it doesn't really seem to add anything to the movie itself.